Go.
Hi, I'm going to talk about the four-wheeler and how some of the basics that are necessary for ploughing. So first of all, while I still have the seat off, I'm going to talk about the battery real quick. If ever it needs jump started, and you probably know why it needs jump started, reach back here under the passenger seat, lift, and here is the battery. And pull that panel back there. I normally swing this bar out a little bit so that I can get to the red terminal over there and the black terminal there. So back off this screw a little bit and it just makes that easier, and I normally don't put that screw back in so I can swing this. It's just way easier. Put this back on. There are two hooks at the front. They slot in. This loops back up again. It can be a little bit fiddly. Squeeze on the handle at the back, push back down. There we go. I don't want to double check the front there, double check that's gone down. Alright, to turn on the four-wheeler, normally the keys are in it. There's two on positions. One is power on, the second is power with headlights.
Oh, is that what that is?
That's what that is. I had a feeling we're going to learn some things. Alright, so decide what you want to do there. It has to be in neutral. Quite often it's already in H or reverse maybe. Has to be in neutral to be able to turn it on. So green button here is the start button.
Alright, so I'm going to repeat. So first key on. Check if it's in neutral, and then green power button. Now show them the emergency kill. I know that red button. Did you know that that red button right there turns everything off?
No. Not what I use. There's also light switches here for high beams, low beams, things like that.
I remember one day I was trying to turn it on and I couldn't get it to start, and it was because that red button was in the wrong position.
Ah, that's a good one to know. Other buttons. So the most essential ones are the four-wheel drive button. This one here. You can hear it turning on and off even.
How do you know? Oh, look, it also goes on there when it's on.
So if it's icy out at all, leave it in four-wheel drive.
He just said if it's icy out at all. I'll translate.
All right. So other things to know up here. So just like any other four-wheeler or snow machine, you've got throttle there. You've got brakes. I'll figure it out and stop these dancing around all over the place.
Oh, I can see you in the mirror.
And if you ever get into get really stuck in four-wheel drive, there's diff lock as well, differential lock. You can turn that on top of the four-wheel drive and it will get even better.
So if it snows 3 feet and you get stuck in the snow, that will be your friend.
Yes.
Where is it? Right there. Differential lock.
You've already put the four-wheel drive on, you can turn the differential lock on top of it.
Which means all the wheels will move at the same time.
Yep. I normally leave it with four-wheel drive turned on. Most of the time I put it into neutral, but sometimes you forget. Other buttons to be aware of. This one here is the light bar. Now, the problem with this four-wheeler is it doesn't generate power for the battery as quickly as it puts out power.
I remember that.
Especially if you're using the winch a lot, and especially if you've got the lights on. It does fine with the regular lights, but if you've got the light bar on as well, you're probably going to be losing power. And then all of a sudden you've got to jump start it midway through using it. It will cut out on you.
And the jump starter will be in the hut?
Probably.
Okay.
Normally it's in here.
That's why I'm wondering, should we put it back in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So the jump
But
start...
it's not here right now.
No, but we can put it back in there.
Sometime. Yeah, that's where I tend to keep it.
Before we leave?
No.
Okay, so not while we're gone this time. Okay.
All right, so other controls. This unit here is the winch, and you've got out, and in.
It's not focusing. There we go.
That's right.
Out and in. Oh, and it even shows the little winch thing right there.
Yep. That makes the plow go up and down.
And out means more cable goes out, which means the plow will go down.
Now I've got the scraper blade, the wear bar removed at the moment. We're doing a repair on that, so that normally looks slightly different and can't be used without a wear bar in place. So just here is the release mechanism for rotating. I've never tried to do this up in the air before. There we go. Normally easier than this on the ground.
And you do this often, right?
Yeah, depending on which direction you want to push snow.
Right.
Left, right or centre. So that's in the centre now. Pretty straightforwards. Now when you're ploughing, big tip is as much as possible don't crank the plough blade up and down, because that drains the battery and you end up with the problem I was telling you about a second ago.
Same with the light bar. You were saying the light bar will drain the battery, right?
Yep.
Okay.
If you are, so when you're ploughing, if you don't have to pick up the blade, you can just reverse it and leave the blade in place and then line up on the next line. Do that, because it will mean that you've got more power and you're less likely to kill the four-wheeler midway through ploughing and have to jump it. So I think that's everything as far as the, I suppose there's one other brake down by your foot on the right hand side, and that's the same on a motorcycle. I think that's everything as far as controls for it. Now when I'm ploughing, I always start off with the parking bays, and what I do is I have the blade pushed slightly to the right, and I clear from right moving to the left. And so I do the first parking bay, second parking bay, third parking bay, fourth parking bay, from left to right.
Which is from the Travelodge sign and the entrance to the hut.
Next, I straighten the blade and I pull all the way up in front of the step to the hut in front of the front door. Drop the blade and then reverse it and pull everything that's in front of the...
Is that how you do that?
Yeah. All of that snow that's in front of the area, I get rid of all of that.
And the area door.
And the area door, and then I leave that snow right next to the fence on the corner, and then I swing back around and push all of that snow up against the parking strip in the same direction I've just been doing with the
and for
parking spaces.
For people who have not heard the word "the area," that's what we call where the waste tanks are and the refrigerators are. That's a fenced-in area. We've nicknamed it the area.
So then I might go back and re-tidy up anything that was left in front of the steps, because obviously there's a big slip hazard for the rest of the day. Next I go all the way back to the Travelodge, the beginning of that large section. I angle the plough blade to the right, and starting from, and hard right this time, starting from the left side, I do a pass all the way down.
And on your left is Burnside, and on your right is the rest of the parking lot.
So I clear one strip and then use the plough blade to push everything to the right. And as I get in line with the end of the trees and the end of the deck on the far end, that's where I lift the blade.
Do you reverse with it lifted? So you're reversing and it's lifted?
Not just there, I don't.
Oh.
So the quick way of doing it is you just lift the blade up, and then you carry on going, and you do a big circle back to the back to the beginning.
Okay.
And do the next strip, lower it back down again, another long pass.
So you drive into the parking lot, into the rest of the parking lot, and do a loop. Okay.
And then I work my way over, all the way to the right hand side of the big drive-through.
Helps not to reverse in that moment too, just in case cars are coming up into the drive-through.
You're pretty aware by that point.
Yeah.
But it's just way quicker just to keep going one direction.
Sure.
And then you go around and around and around, and then eventually you get to the point of cleaning up the edges, because now you're going to have a mound going into the rest of the car park.
Kind of like sweeping.
Yeah.
Like sweeping.
So what I do is on that very final pass, I've got this mound building. It's pushing right up onto the into the bushes and onto the parking mounds. But then when there's a gap, I turn into that space and then I drive square on into the next parking island, and so I'm getting rid of most of that snow pile as I go.
On the other side of the trees?
No, in the tree islands. So there's the gap between the islands that trees.
Oh,
there's the tree, there's the empty one, there's the bushes one.
Yes.
As I'm coming past the first island,
the bush
I get
one.
to the end of the bush island,
Uh-huh.
and then I start turning to the right, and then drive square into the next island.
Ah, gotcha. And
Now, this
pushing
has-
the snow up against that island.
And
Got
get
it.
rid of it onto that island. So
Got
you
it.
don't
And
have
this is
to-
your last leg of the drive-through. Okay.
Then I reverse, then I do carry on to the next one and do the same thing with the next space, and then go all the way to the end, and now I've got my big berm that I've been building up and leaving there. I don't want to take it much further than that because I've still got to do something with that snow. And so then normally I go to the... So then I break from that. I go over to I start clearing the far driveway. I normally don't bother about the first driveway on the Travelodge end because there's normally a lot more traffic through there and it's not normally as bad. But I've got to do something about the second driveway because I'm now
Our exit.
because I'm also piling snow up into that space now.
Right.
And so I start from the far driveway and start on the left-hand side of that and start pushing snow towards the island.
Okay.
Trying not to leave any berms for other businesses, but they can push their own snow. And quite often there's already a snowplow company out doing that part as well by that point. And so I start on the left-hand side, still leaving the plough blade angled to the right. It's been angled to the right the whole time. Start pushing it, and kind of semicircular turns into the island by the trees. Get rid of all of that. Spin back around, clear back, and so I go all the way over to where the rocks are on our area, and then I clean up what's left in both directions, so I can get rid of all the little piles of snow that have been left from that process. Then finally I go back along, not quite finally, then I go along and tidy up the rest of the gaps between the islands. I've already done part of that, but that's lowest priority for that section. And it takes a few goes to get that cleared out, and so what you want to avoid is having a berm for people to drive over going into the car park. So if you can just get that
Car park is parking lot.
parking lot. So if people are driving up onto the regular snow, that's fine. What we don't want is a big hump for them to drive over.
Right.
And you do that just by attacking what's left there from different directions.
In between the islands.
Yep. Finally, what I do is, so by this point, hopefully the people who have been shoveling decks are already finished with all of this. And because
Next is the
there's-
sidewalk.
Next is the sidewalk, and we want to make sure that we're not leaving big piles of snow after the four-wheeler's been down.
Right. So we want to
Otherwise-
have the patio cleared before the person who's plowing gets done with everything, which gives us about 40 minutes to clear the snow from the patio.
So then, sometimes that doesn't happen, and whoever's shoveling snow at that point is responsible for making sure that the sidewalk doesn't end up buried again.
Yeah.
Because then what I do is I go all the way down to the very corner, come up next to the physical therapy clinic and clear that piece of sidewalk carefully, all the way along with the right hand blade, again pushing snow into the road, and go all the way along.
So you still haven't changed the angle of the snow blade?
Correct.
Okay.
And we go all the way along to the very along the front of the the deck. Keep in mind there's one, the first step as you're coming from that direction, the easternmost step.
The one that's in the
Comes out.
middle, if you were to just look at the whole deck, it's the big step that's in the middle that's in line with the sofa.
That one sticks out 6 inches, 8 inches from the front of the deck, so you'll hit it with a snowplow if you're not aware of it. So you miss that, you come in nice and tight all the way along, go nice and slow, push the snow to the right all the way along, and then you come in nice and tight all the way along the rest of the deck, all the way along the rest of the, past the entire building, and then go all the way down to the corner next to
the sidewalks. Everything you're saying is the sidewalk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Depending on how much snow there's been at that point, then there's a decision to be made. Do we need to clear snow for cars as well? That part is a pain.
What are you talking about? Clear snow for cars in
Well,
the front?
If there's so much snow we've just piled
Into the
road,
road. Okay.
cars are not going to be able to pull up.
Right.
And so then there's a decision how to get rid of the rest of it, because you don't want to have to plough the entire road.
Can we just push it forward so that there's a spot to park and idle for our online deliveries? But
Possible, if we put a big pile there, what we'll end up with. There we go. What we'll end up with is a snow mound that will stay there for weeks.
Yeah.
And so be careful with that. If we've got no other choice, do it. But
Yeah.
Quite often, what I do is I put one of the wheels, or one of the end, the left-hand end of the plough blade on the curb, and then the right hand on the road, and I just level out all the way along.
Yeah.
Then you end up with more berms you've still got to deal with, and then I come back around a second time, and I scoop bits of it and push it over across the road into the
Okay.
onto
The empty lot.
onto the empty lot.
Okay.
And that seems to work pretty well. If you can avoid getting into doing the road at all, avoid doing the road, because that's just a pain immediately.
The code to get into the garage will be given to you the morning of plowing if you don't know it and have it already. And also the address of the garage if you're one of the friends and family members that help while we're out of town. Anything else you can think of?
No.
We have a helmet.
Yeah.
And we have a person who's plowing Monday through Friday right now, and we'll have them leave it in here so that the helmet is available in here. Are the hand warmers working on that?
Yeah. Oh, that's one more thing I thought about. Hand warmers. So this unit here is the hand warmers. You've got two different options. One is grips, one is thumb. Grips, thumb. So you select.
They're wonderful hand warmers. Yeah. They really work well.
So you've got two different options, left and right. So the left one, the grips are turned off at the moment. You can turn them up or off. Then you go on to the right hand orange light. You can change the temperature of the thumb warmer.
Okay, straightforward.
Just going to double check this still has power.
All right, I'm going to recap a little bit, give you time to think of anything else. All right, keys in the ignition, what is that called?
Gear shift.
Gear shift in neutral.
Neutral.
Green button turns it on. Headlights, we want, if you're driving it in the early morning, you'll want the headlights so that, people see you. There's a button for the light bar. Show that, the light bar. But that's only if you really need it because that will drain the battery. The plow blade going up and down is right here. And that drains the battery as well, so you try not to do it too much, but you do it every time you do a long pass.
Yep. And
because then you can lift it up and drive and do the loop around.
You'll have to do it here and there, but if you can avoid doing it, if you can just reverse, just reverse.
Okay, cool.
There's a whole bunch of places you can just reverse, and it'll be fine.
The plow right now does not have the plow blade on it. That's coming in just a day or two. If you're the person who helps put the blade back on, here are the screws, the bolts and nuts right there.
The other thing to be aware of the plough, I don't think I can demonstrate it, but yep, there you go. It's on springs, so it can be driven into things and it will fold forward some. It won't take hitting it at full speed to try and you can do damage to it if you hit it too fast. So try and brake before you hit the curb, but you can hit the curb a little bit.
Okay, so don't freak out if you hit the curb a little bit. There's give there, but try to avoid it.
Yep.
Okay. Anything about tires or...
Tires, I think they're like supposed to be at. There's a tire chart here.
5 or 10 or something, or 8 or something like that.
Yeah, it's low. 5.1 and 4.4 psi.
So if you're looking in
lower than
any tire you've ever heard of before,
they should do this.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to measure that on a regular tire gauge.
The most common thing that you're going to come across is a dead battery, and there's a really easy to use jump starter in the hut under the soda machine. I don't know. Can you think of anything else? Awesome. All right. If you have any questions at all, just contact Rick or I, and we will help you through it. We will be awake. I promise. All right. Thanks so much. Thanks, Rick.